F&O market. In the meantime, let's quickly see how the auto stocks are reacting to this update that we just gave as an ET Now exclusive, wherein the FinMin is not currently in favor of hiking the cess by 10% on SUVs as well as luxury vehicles in one go. In fact, they are recommending currently a 7% cess hike on both of these categories. This is the ET Now exclusive that we have right now. Sridhar V, partner at Grant Thornton India, joins us on the phone, as well as we have Mr. Satya Podar from EY joining us. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for taking time out. Mr. Podar, I'll start with you. What could this cess hike mean? Because 10% is what the cabinet had earlier cleared, and now we're learning that the finance ministry is not willing to take the 10% hike in one go, and currently is recommending about a 7% hike. So how could that be a relief, if at all, for the SUVs as well as luxury car makers?
Well, the 10% was the maximum cess. It was the upper limit on the cess. It went up from 15 to 25%. So in a way, there was no requirement that all of the cesses be raised to the maximum permissible limit of 25%. And in fact, if you look at the old excise duty rates, it wasn't exactly 55%, because if you take the 28% plus 25%, it comes to roughly 53%, which is about where the excise duty was, but some of the cars could have been a shade lower than 53%, even under the old regime. So I don't think it's really a big, from the economic or the policy point of view, big deviation from what the cabinet had approved and what the finance minister is recommending.
But, what would be the ideal rate that the auto industry, particularly some of those mid-sized players, would want for right now, given the fact that what is currently being suggested is close to 1 to 5% on the mid-sized sedans?
In fact, the only way to define the ideal is bring the tax rates as close as possible to what they existed prior to the GST and the old regime. Now, the tax system under the old regime, it depended. If the autos, for example, were sold locally, where they were manufactured, there was no 2% CST, and the effective excise duty rate and the VAT rate could have been a little lower than in the case of automobiles which were sold interstate, because interstate sales attracted extra 2% CST. So there was a variation under the old regime on effective tax burden, and that's the only equivalence principle that one can use, because there's no other way to define what is an ideal or sort of a desirable tax rate on the automobile.
Okay. Also, Mr. Venkatachari, what I'd like you to tell us is, because after the GST, the tax incidence on luxury cars as well as SUVs came down to 43%, and now with the likely, say, about 7 to 8% odd is what is expected now to be hiked. How is that going to add on to the overall costing of the vehicle, and how much of an impact do the customers have to take in?
I think trying to peg the additional cess at around 7% is certainly going to bring in a sigh of a little bit of a relief on an otherwise luxury and the SUV segment, which is really bothered by a 10% hike, which they were assuming, overall from what it was earlier. So it's a small mercy which is being extended to them, but to my mind, again, as I mentioned earlier, luxury cars and SUVs will still be at a lower tax rate than what it was pre-GST times.
All right. Thanks very much, Sridhar, as well as Satya, for joining in and giving us your views on what this news could potentially mean for some of the auto players. But as I said, we will only garner more clarity at a later date on the 9th of September. But on that note, we'll wind it down right here on the show. Thanks for watching. Closing trades coming right up.